What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Sunday night, Season 2 of Fear the Walking Dead, Episode 7, titled Shiva. I'm sitting here with Simon Thompson, Ashley Chatman. We're going to break the whole thing down for you. It's hard to say goodbye. We won't see you guys again until the end of the summer. But in the meantime, we have one more episode to break down. So hang out with us. We're going to give you the inside scoop, our opinions, everything about this. We'll see you in just 1 second.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
So, we take turns choosing the song, and I think we can all tell who chose this one.
Yeah, Ben, you've got terrible taste in music. Awful.
Just kidding.
Do it, guys.
Simon chooses every week. So.
Yeah.
You have such great suggestions. It's hard not to.
Well, by great, do you mean terrible?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
You were just telling us that you have a lifelong love for the Backstreet Boys, that irrational love.
I do. I'm a big fan of 90s boy bands.
If you had to rank, just really quick, top three in order, what would they be?
It would be Backstreet Boys #1, NSYNC #2, and 3, 98 Degrees.
I was hoping you were going to say 5.
No, no, 5 are actually 5 on my list. Can't believe I know my own list.
When the lights go out, guys. All right, welcome to the show.
You don't want to see that. It's horrible.
Welcome to another episode of Fear the Walking Dead on AfterBuzz TV. This is our recap panel of the 7th episode of Season 2, titled Shiva. This is our last episode for a while, guys. We're going to be gone until the end of August.
I can still call you guys on a Sunday night, though, right?
Of course. Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, cool.
I may or may not be busy and, give you that ignore.
Every week for about 10 weeks.
You can Snapchat me. No, okay.
It'll give an opportunity to maybe actually watch the whole thing again leading up to it this summer. I'd like to refamiliarize myself with Season 1 a little bit. But we are going to break down the episode, guys. We are on the live chat over here. Mr. Simon Thompson, he's your DJ.
There. Yeah. Do I DJ the chat?
Yes.
I guess that's kind of what it is, right?
Okay, yes.
He's going to type in boy band lyrics into there for you.
Yeah, Simon is on the ones and twos.
I am.
And the pads over here. So,
Fat bald slim.
Yes. So, guys, my name is Ben Bateman. I'm hosting you, and I have two wonderful co-hosts here. Miss Ashley Chatman.
Yes. Hey, guys. I'm on Twitter and Facebook, Instagram, Ashley_Chatman.
And I'm Simon Thompson. Apologies in advance. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Showbiz Simon, and on Facebook, This is Simon Thompson.
And, of course, if you want to find me, of course, I am Ben Bateman Media, Twitter and Instagram. So let's get into the episode. But before we do, I should remind everybody that, of course, we are on Twitter, we are on iTunes, we are on YouTube. Leave your comments below. Let us know your thoughts on the thing. If you liked what we did, or you like, we just leave a comment and a rating on iTunes. It really helps us stay high in the standings. We provide free content. We will continue to provide free content. If you guys do that, it's hard for us to do it any other way. So that would be awesome if you did that.
We're also very needy.
We're very needy.
We're also very needy.
Yeah, if you guys give us a nice enough review, Simon has offered to do an a cappella rendition of any boy bands. Just kidding.
Do you know what?
No,
screw it. I'll do it.
With full hair and makeup, too. Everything.
Hair?
Hair.
Oh, my God, I get hair as well.
Yeah.
So zombies, then.
We'll be your backup dancers. I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah,
That's what everything I dreamed of.
Yeah, right.
Everything I dreamed of.
We'll be so back. We'll be like way. We're
just going to leave.
Way back.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, guys, the episode starts out, and I think the first thing we're going to talk about is, Chris storms out of the room after the gunshot goes off, and he goes off running. Travis decides to go after him. So Travis just takes off. It's it's getting into sundown, and he's like, I'm going to go find Chris. He runs through the cornfield. He yells at him, and Chris is just running. The weird thing is, he didn't get water. He didn't bring a weapon. He didn't really think it through.
Yeah.
He was like, if he's running away from me, how long is this going to go on for? It turns out that he's out all night.
Yeah.
Chasing after him.
Well, I thought that was just because he didn't know where the gunshot came from, and so maybe he assumed that had something to do with Chris. If you're a parent and your first impulse is just to make sure your child's okay. So I got that whole thing of it, but yeah, it just the whole thing. It seemed like a little scrambled in the beginning, and everybody was just trying to grab their bearings and sort of figure out what was going on. I
get tired of the way that they're handling Travis as. He seems to be like emotional and not pragmatic enough given the situation. It's like he has these moments, these breakthrough moments, but it's like ultimately and I've had this feeling since season 1. We talked about this a lot. I just expected he should be dead by now. It doesn't feel like the way he behaves, he would have been able to survive this long. It just constantly feels like, okay, he ran away, but let's be real with what's going on here. If you're gonna go chasing after him, you can't go with no weapon, no water, no food. You don't know how long you're gonna be out for. He's running away from you. Even when he finds Chris, and he finds him, and Chris is locked himself in this cabin with this guy's son. He's holding a gun to him. Travis hits the gun out of his hand. Chris swings at him with a knife, like tries to stab him in the throat, and all he does is knock the knife out of his hand and then just sit there panting.
Well, it's really interesting to see how we've seen, even in the last episode and a half, 2 episodes, we've seen his character change quite a lot from, you know, the guy who really had it together. You know, he was one. It was him and Maddie were the two that were steering the metaphorical and physical ship. Right. You know, and it was like, yeah, we've got our shit together. He was like, I'm going to help my son. We've got to deal with the death of his mother. And then the last 2 episodes, it's been, and this is actually with quite a few of the characters today, it seems that uncharacteristically they've gone to some kind of extreme.
Yeah. I totally agree with you.
They've kind of gone from the start of a journey to the end of a journey, and they've kind of missed out the journey.
Well, yeah, right. Like all of a sudden Nick is super enlightened. All of a sudden Salazar is super crazy. All of a sudden Travis is losing it. You know, it's like it's weird. Everybody seems to be going crazy, and we talked about it a little bit. Could it be this place? Right? Could this place be the thing? It's this evil place. But that's not really a satisfying enough answer for me. Like, it makes me feel like these characters are acting out of character.
Well, I think there's an element of going proper crazy where people have actually a mental illness effectively.
Right.
But I think there's an element here of the fact that this is something that was discussed on the boat by Strand, by Salazar, by Maddie, and by Travis. By the fact that you are going to see these splits in factions, people are going to start to distrust each other. And I think it's not madness as a mental condition necessarily. It's kind of an induced paranoia by the fact that you don't know within that group if it comes to something hitting the fan, if they're going to be there for you or they're going to go bye.
Yeah, and I think also it's just the fact that they're all together in this enclosed space. I mean, it's a big space. I mean, the land is large, but you know, it's a lot of emotions, it's a lot of tension, a lot of stuff that they had been dealing with coming off of the boat, and now these are new people that they don't know. Like you're saying, they don't trust these people. So I think it's a combination of all those things. But I agree, it did seem like it jumped, you know, really, really quickly from one extreme to another. And maybe they just were trying to get us to a point for the mid-season finale. Maybe we can come back and kind of rectify that a little bit. But I mean, overall, I mean, I thought the episode was cool, but I was looking for something a little bit more explosive. I mean, outside of the actual explosion.
Something more definitive, I think, was what I was looking for. This episode felt very like wishy-washy, very loose. Everything was just like, okay, like that's happening, that's weird, like he's seeing a dead person, all of a sudden Daniel's totally nuts, you know, and it's like, oh, and you know, Nick is having this enlightened moment where he's willing to essentially abandon his family, and like Chris is trying to kill his dad, and like, you know, Strand is gonna be out of the group, like Celia seems to be walking towards getting eaten by walkers with like just like no fear at all. Everything about it was so strange and eerie and creepy, and in this but in this way where it's like I didn't feel like I recognized any of the characters. That was the strangest part for me. But
certainly for me with Nick, I mean, we've seen him going into this state where we knew he had this kind of they can't see me, I can move among them kind of gung-ho thing. But it seems to be with a purpose. And obviously we saw that Celia was sort of, you know, getting inside his head and getting her hooks into him. But again, as you say, the evolution there of him going from that level of, okay, well, maybe there's different viewpoints, like, oh, I've gone Rambo, and to just go completely pro-Celia and start espousing these things that are kind of they're philosophical and they're kind of like almost religious. And as Strand said, you know, it's this sort of voodoo kind of bullshit. And it just seems that he doesn't, for someone who's very intelligent, he doesn't buy into these schools of thought particularly quickly. He seems to, all the way through this half of the season, be very reasoned. And all of a sudden he's like, I'm just gonna her. And someone we met like 2 days before.
And very capable as well, right? He's very capable. I thinking about the conversation he had with Madison when he said those things, I move among them and I'm not going to die and they can't touch me and all that stuff. First of all, I was like, he's Neo. He's the one. Like, you know? But then also I was just thinking to myself, I was just like, the way he's talking to Madison and you're wondering, how should she be handling herself? Because he's like, I can't talk to you when you're like this. And she's just asking these questions. You kind of wonder, how would you, if you were a pragmatic person and you were in this crisis situation and the world was falling apart around you, you know, how would you lose it a little bit? Like, would you just by default just lose it a little bit? Like, even if you are a really reasonable, very capable person, it's interesting. We've seen so much content like this in post-apocalyptic situations that we expect our characters to just never just go haywire a little bit. And I think it's not that unrealistic to imagine that somebody like Madison or like Nick or like Salazar, who's all the way there, could just lose it.
I think it is somewhat appropriate, and I would agree that pretty much all of the characters in some way, even if you do have some stableness about you, you are going to lose it in a you know, quite a big way, or in some way, because you're not in a sensible situation, right? Zombies or walkers, you know, the living dead. This whole scenario is something that seems very unbelievable.
Right.
So it's expected, but it's interesting because they seem to be losing their minds in very, very different ways.
Well, here's a really interesting point, actually, and something I haven't considered. It's coming in the chat from Jan G. Nick seemed a bit off after he killed the kid last episode, and Celia gave him something to make him feel better. So, bearing in mind that obviously we were talking about what's in the compound, could there be something either in the food, which they have all been consuming, or in the water source? Or in the Pozzoli, because she was really fucking keen to have Salazar eat that Pozzoli. I love Pozzoli.
I know.
But she really wanted to try that. It's kind of like a strange guy in a bar going, hey, drink this drink. Is there roofie in there? No.
Right. It is a good point. It is a good point that maybe like is I mean, we saw Daniel and his like sort of schizophrenia or whatever is going on with him. We started to see that happening earlier. They did plant the seeds semi-recently, like a few episodes ago, I feel like. But you could be right. Whoever suggested that.
That was Jan G in the chat.
But it seemed like it evolved so much, you know, way, way quicker than what feels natural, you know, or normal. And I also think maybe it's the place. Yeah, maybe it's just a combination of them being drugged or underneath some sort of influence.
Well, Jan's again just come back and said he really seems the type who would join a cult.
Yeah,
and it's that kind of personality. I don't want to sound like I'm Dr. Phil or anything, but here we go. It's this kind of personality, an addictive personality that needs to belong to a group,
right?
To have some kind of, and he doesn't have drugs anymore, so kind of this is his new drug. And if you are impressionable or susceptible to this kind of thing, the messages or peer pressure or belonging to something, you are going to go along, and that's I think why Celia actually did. Look at him as the one. Strand was never going to come on board. Salazar was never going to come on board. Madison and Travis were never going to come on board.
Yeah.
The daughters were like, no, no, it's not going to happen. So the only person there was either going to be Chris or Nick. And Chris was kind of like, I'm kind of doing my own thing.
My own crazy thing.
Yeah, I'm just going to do my own little. And also,
Jim
he's massively
Jones
independent. And just totally independent. If you're going to basically create a cult of people that want to follow you, you're not going to go for the guy who's clearly just mentally clumsy and socially just tends to do the wrong thing. You're going to go for the guy who's like, you're my soldier.
Nick's
you're my
capable.
guy.
So speaking of Chris again, though, to wrap up the point with him and Travis. So Travis finds him. They have this interaction. Travis gets some new shoes, and he has this fight with Chris. He knocks the gun out of his hand. Chris takes a swing at him with a knife. Travis apparently, has a moment where he's like, I should have helped you. I should have taken care of you. Here's the thing, though. Like, you have this main cast of characters, and we can expect that they will add new characters in sometimes that we'll see more of. Like, this happens. Guest stars get elevated and all that. But Travis is a main character, so is Chris. Like, I don't know how Chris can come back to the group. And if Travis is not going to leave Chris, I don't know how Travis can really come back to the group. I don't really see it. It's very hard for me to imagine getting out of the situation. So Travis, like, going off on his own in that way. I mean, I guess it's interesting that he's like, he is standing up for his son. He's preferencing his son. And you do think about that situation, right? I mean, we've all thought about the post-apocalypse thing. And at the end of the day, who are the what's the hierarchy of people you're going to sacrifice and take care of? It's right. It's like your immediate family, your significant other,
the person who picks NSYNC to start a show.
Right. But even in that situation, if Travis is like, I have to either abandon my wife and my stepchildren, who I totally care for, to take care of my son, who seems like he's losing it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to abandon them to take care of my son.
Well, he also knows that they don't have his son's back anymore,
right?
Yeah.
Because he's a loose cannon and he's obviously lying. So he's not. It's his support or no support.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that ever since Liza died, even before that, I think that he feels like he's probably chosen Madison and Nick and Alicia more than he's chosen Chris in a lot of ways. So I kind of took him being more emotional this season, or at least in the last few episodes, as just more so him having guilt, for having to basically put Liza down, and him not maybe necessarily having the greatest relationship with Chris, especially since they split, him and Liza split. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, he almost didn't seem, comfortable or happy. I don't know if that's the word I want to use.
He's not. I'm sure he's not comfortable or happy.
He was very hesitant about it, and he just kind of felt like he had to do it out of obligation, not because he had a genuine concern about Chris. So it'll be interesting to see what that relationship dynamic is once they're off on their own.
Right.
And especially since Chris is now, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Well, there's people in the chat are actually talking about this as we are. Cycle for Wartime says Travis is screwed because he has to stay with his son and eventually Chris will kill him. Winter Wolf, Winter Wolf 915 is like, Chris is either going to kill him or get him killed.
Right.
Both of them will be dead by the finale. This is from Cycle Forward Time. I think I can see a situation where Travis has to kill Chris.
God, that'd be brutal. Travis just having to murder all of the people that he cares about.
Yeah.
So there was.
I thought he was going to do it when they were on the ground, and Chris went for the knife. I thought he was going to just go like, clearly I can't save my son. I'm going to have to kill him.
You know what? The part of me that actually in that situation was the most like surprised was just like, all right, Travis, like he just tried to stab you. You're gonna need to hit him. You're gonna need to show him, like, not hit him because like child abuse. You're gonna need to hit him, show like, you mean business. This is not gonna fly. He's gonna try to stab you. He's gonna have to understand that like this is not going to stand. You will physically detain him if he does that. And we didn't see any of that.
Well, there was
such a passive interaction. It was so weird.
But we've seen that earlier in the season because twice now when Chris slapped Travis in the face, Travis was like, "What the fuck?"
But in that one, that's different because you don't hit your kid, so your kid is he's smaller than you. He doesn't know better. So when he slaps Travis, it's like he's upset because he lost his mom.
But a slap and going to stab you with a knife
are different. They're
different,
very different
levels of crazy.
It's weird. This episode,
or anger.
This episode tonight had so many like the theme of this episode was parenting. It was obviously like father son, mother daughter. Like just that was kind of what the whole episode seemed to be about. And it's interesting. Father son stuff always gets me. That's the stuff that gets me the most emotional. It's just like the trigger for me. I felt nothing in that. The father son thing. Nothing. It didn't do anything for me. And maybe that's because I didn't believe it. I don't know.
But it's as you say, it's across the board because Strand said to Celia, "He's not your son." Celia said to Maddie, "You know, what would you do for your son?"
Right.
And it's a parenting thing. And perhaps the only one that was able to be the proper parent was Strand.
Yeah.
Even if that time he did swing, he's a very swing. But he was 1 minute being very like, let's all stick together and be saved. Are you going to come with me, Maddie?
Yeah. Right.
And then he was like, there was that detachment that we've seen from him before.
The line that he says is, he says, let's not confuse things with vague terms like friend. Yeah. We were the means to each other's end.
So it's either you're with me or screw you. They're two separate things. But I think ultimately he sees them as a cohesive group now.
So let's move on and talk a little bit about Daniel and his whole entire weird flashback thing and his first victim, and he was the first victim. So, do we all believe that Daniel is dead? We didn't see a body.
We didn't see,
It's possible that Daniel got out.
But
we don't know.
Balls appeared to be burning.
He seemed to be standing there in the flame.
You can still live without balls. I mean, from what I hear.
It's weird.
It's ball-free life.
Yeah. It's weird when they kill. It's weird when they kill a character, but they don't actually show you the payoff of the character dying. They just kind of. So that's always strange. Usually, main characters on shows, they don't get that kind of treatment. They actually get like an actual death. But he could be dead. This whole thing with him like losing it and attacking the guards and trying to stab the guy, and it really did seem to come out of nowhere. I mean, they had set him up. They had just definitely set up that he was losing a little bit. Yeah. But it was so extreme, and then for him to be having a full-on conversation with Griselda. I mean, the whole thing was. I didn't believe it. What about you guys?
I don't think it was handled particularly well.
Right.
The flow of it and the pace of it just didn't seem right.
Yeah.
The whole thing, because as you say, he has been. At the start of the episode, obviously we saw he was getting slightly paranoid, or his mental state was adjusting.
Flashing back,
yeah, but he was cohesive and clear enough to be able to create a little weapon.
Yeah.
Right.
So he knew that he was still able to control a situation, even if mentally he was starting to sort of unravel a little bit. But to be tied to the chair and to just lose it, and especially when, even though Celia is very convincing, when you think about all the stuff that Salazar's been through,
right.
He wouldn't just snap like that, or if he did snap, he'd go batshit crazy in a battle sense rather than I'm a broken man sense. I think that would have been more realistic.
Yeah, and up until this point, he seemed to be a very strong, very sensible character. So I felt like, okay, if he's gonna go so far to the left, there would have to be some inciting incident, something really strong to happen in the episode that would just make his mind flip. And I didn't see that much of an, I guess, a reason for that. So it did feel kind of weird because he's kept it together this entire time. Yeah, he's had these flashbacks, he's had these visions and things like that, but he's been able to keep it together and he's been able to hold it together. So I guess for him to just go from 0 to 100 real quick, you know, it just felt like there wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough there for his character to just kind of break his psyche the way that happened. If
it was really the death episode, it was a disappointing death for me.
Here's an idea. As he's a religious man, is it a case of you know, kind of like a baptism of fire, cleansing himself with the fire, where he's putting himself in a situation where effectively to repent for the crimes that are still traumatizing him, that have really sort of, you know, come back to him in a big way, right? That he's kind of like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to set fire to this. I'm going to free the spirit, the guilt spirit of my wife, be absolved. If I die, I die. Right. If I survive, I survive. So he may not be dead. Yeah. What we could see is the fact that if he does somehow survive this, he'll be absolved in some way.
Which, okay,
I thought
that's good.
That Celia might have still been alive, and maybe at the last minute she grabs him and they escape. That was my initial thought, because you didn't see her in the cell anymore.
Probably making zombie Pozzoli.
Yeah, right.
Ooh, that sounds
zombie.
So let's talk about that then. Let's talk about Madison luring Celia into the cage. So Madison, as we've seen now, is a cold hard bitch. She's got it together. Yeah. She's definitely like pretty stone cold. She's all about her family. It's weird that it's like she is stone cold and she knows how to handle herself, but she still does have this like mental block about her kids where she doesn't really get it. Like, she doesn't get that Nick is super capable. She hasn't been able to actually talk to him like he's a valuable adult asset yet. She's still like very freaked out, you know. Like, I think that's so interesting. She's willing and capable to see the strategy to lure Celia into the dungeon, lock her in there, leave her to die. We're gonna leave in the middle of the night, pack your things. But like when it comes to Nick, and she's like, don't go, you can't, you know. And he's just like, he's the most valuable asset you have. He's so much more capable than any of you. Like, he just gets shit done. And wears zombie blood extremely well. Yeah,
and for someone who wears zombie blood quite often, it's obviously becoming a bit of a trademark for him. And then he keeps showering. His whites come up very white.
Oh my God, his
shirt
was
covered in blood.
His shirt was pristine. It was pristine.
I get red wine on my t-shirts. I tend to spill my drinks, and I'm like, I can't get that shit out for the love or money.
It's because you're trying to drink the wine and do the bye move at the same time.
I've got to stop that shit and drink.
It's bounty. They should just put that in there.
But every time I was going like, dude, your vest top is way too fucking white.
His shirts are like the quicker picker up.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that it's really interesting. I think that her weak spot definitely are her kids, and it was just so interesting, you know, the look that she had on her face, you know, when she turned once they all got into the truck and they were leaving, and she's looking at Nick and kind of just basically seeing him walking away and kind of letting him go. Yeah. I wonder how that will affect her, and, you know, eventually she's going to have to get to that point where she'll have to let both of them go, Alicia. I mean, even if it's not, you know, in a physical sense of, you know, you go your way, I go mine, she's going to have to let that need to just be the overprotector and basically shelter them and kind of shield them from the world, because, I mean, the world is not the way it was anymore. And so it'll just be interesting to see, because she seems very level-headed, like she likes to have control of everything. And so seeing that kind of go out of control, I wonder what effect that will have on her character for the next part of the season.
It also really makes me wonder about Alicia's character, in the sense that Ophelia, if Daniel is dead, this is what we talked about, she will become more of a main character in the second half of the season, guaranteed. She'll go through a change. We'll see her arc. That's very clear. But with Alicia, it's kind of hard to imagine. I don't know how they're going to write her, what they're going to do with her. It's really weird. She seems like sort of untapped in some ways. Like, she didn't even have any lines in tonight's episode, hardly. Yeah. She seems like much more of a kid than Nick, but she's only a couple years younger. I would expect at this point for them to have pushed her a little further, but she still seems like, you know, she's mommy's girl. Like, that's weird.
But we are seeing, you know, a bit of clearing house with characters now. Obviously, potentially, we're losing Travis and Chris. Yeah. You know, a lot of people are saying that we want to see more of Ophelia. Ophelia getting character growth in the second half. this happens with The Walking Dead as well. You have a couple of characters where every now and again they will clean house, and then other characters that have kind of been like, what is the point of you being in the show? You just kind of like, you know, the red shirt in Star Trek, you know, oh, I'll go out there, oh, I'm dead.
Right.
And so you have to clear out because you can't have too many strong characters at the same time, otherwise everybody's on that level.
Other,
So this could be where we do see Ophelia and everybody else start to come through and do. And obviously, if Maddie's going to stop being the strong female of the group, if she's starting to have her own issues and worrying too much about her son and getting over that loss, you know, some of the other women are going to have to step up because Strand's going to need a number 2 and a number 3 because it doesn't have Salazar.
I really genuinely do think that Alicia will end up being the Carol. That's been my feeling for the longest time. But it was hard to see it in tonight's episode. It was very hard to see it. So I do want to continue talking about this episode. But before I do, I wanted to let everybody know about Chapman University. Chapman University is located with a tree-lined 75-acre campus in the heart of historical Orange. About 8,000 students are enrolled, undergraduate and graduate programs. It's a very, very great faculty-to-student ratio. It's 14-to-1, so very small classes. Tons and tons of opportunities to study abroad for short trips, for entire semesters. 86% of students benefit from some sort of financial aid, so you might not even have to pay for it yourself. With 10 different schools and colleges, more than 100 different majors and programs, this is literally something for everybody. For more information, check out chapman.edu/information. That's chapman.edu/information, and that is what I have to say about Chapman University. Let's continue talking about Fear the Walking Dead.
All right, nice.
Something that's coming through as well, we're talking about Ophelia, and this is from Moldova 808. Hello, you're always very popular in the chat room. Alicia and Ophelia will play off each other and develop a sisterly relationship. Makes sense that they'll support each other through everything. We haven't seen a lot of that female bonding outside of family units yet. That would be a great dynamic.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. I think, and that's what you see, right? It's the same thing you saw with Walking Dead. As soon as the actual family stuff starts to get, you're further into the crisis, more characters die, and fragmented pieces of former families become like they just join together. It's like Rick always says, we're a family, you know, like that's like eventually, you know, Alicia and Ophelia, they kind of have to be sisters if they're going to survive. They sort of have to be a unit if they're going to survive. And maybe Nick's not part of the family anymore. Maybe he goes and does his own thing. You know, Travis and like you obviously you can't follow too many stories that aren't connected all throughout seasons. But it'll be nice to see this main group. So it's Alicia, Ophelia, Strand, and Maddie. That's those 4, right?
And we're already starting to get a really nice collection of characters who I think are going to disappear off and come back into the show later. Because if we look now, we've got Travis and Chris. That's from this week. Nick's gone somewhere.
Rogue,
He's gone off to hang out with the zombies. We've got a lady from the dinghy who came off the plane. We've got crazy pregnant pirate lady. She's going to be somewhere.
Right.
We've got the guy that I've forgotten his name. Jack. We've got Jack,
Alicia's
who's crying his ass off on a boat. So we've got 5 or 6 people now
that we've had time
that we can see come back either in the second half of this season or the arc for season 3. You know, because when I spoke to the guys behind the show a couple of months ago, they were saying that they are already mapping out season 3.
I'm sure.
So you know they've got to go somewhere. They, like The Walking Dead, they don't tend to, unless you're dead, write you out completely.
Absolutely.
And I think with there being more females than there are men, especially with Strand and Madison in them, I think that might be for an interesting dynamic as well, because at least for the latter half of this first mid-season, a lot of the issues were kind of fueled by, you know, like Chris and
the family stuff, the stuff that ultimately is not what you should be worrying about when you're trying to survive the zombie apocalypse. If somebody's a loose cannon, then they shouldn't be in your group. But it shouldn't. It should not be. I totally agree with you. So I think it's great, like the Travis and Madison and their relationship struggling because they're fighting over their kids. Then split them up because the story will be more interesting if that's not the drama that we're talking about.
Exactly.
So speaking of their kids, you know, Nick is left behind now. He is, and he had all those great lines. He is sort of Neo. Like he is kind of the most capable.
Prophet.
Yeah, exactly. He's got the blood thing down. Where can we expect Nick to end up? Do you guys think? I don't know what he's going to do.
San Diego, because you know that's not there anymore.
Yeah, right.
San Diego's not there.
He's like, essentially, I mean, we think Celia's probably dead. We don't know that. She could be back there. But it's going to be Nick and a bunch of people from this compound. But the compound's burning up. So what are they going to do? What's Nick going to do? I don't even know.
Do we expect him to take over? I mean, I don't know, because he seems to... he seems to be like very reminiscent of Celia's mindset and character, and I think he has that ability in a sense, you know, to kind of step in and say, look, you guys don't have anything left. This is what Celia would have wanted. I mean, maybe he might not go to that extreme, but it'd be interesting to kind of see him go into like a King Louis situation, you know, where he just sort of takes over, and you know, that compound now becomes his.
Well, the compound is burning up though, so we don't actually.
That's not secure anymore.
Yeah. But I mean, we don't know how large the land. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
agreed.
It could be salvaged, and there's other parts of that area that we haven't seen yet. So
yeah, and obviously, you know, when Strand was with Thomas, you know, he was a very, very resourceful man.
Yeah.
So there is a very good chance there could be vehicles on that compound.
Yeah.
You know, there could be another boat. You know, because he was saying about, you know, the fact that his mother was a very resourceful woman, and I don't think she would just leave herself there without anything. So there could be vehicles. There could be all sorts of things. There'll be plenty of food for a while. You know, they'll be able to take care of that. I don't think we're going to see Nick sort of running a zombie army.
Yeah, right.
Because you know, if you're the, even though you can exist amongst them, if they exist amongst them and they can't see you, you're not a leader because they don't know you're there. If you come out as a regular human being, the zombies are going to kill you, so you're not going to be able to do anything with that. So I don't think we're going to see much in that area. I think we will see him go feral for a while. Maybe he could end up coming back to, you know, with Chris and Travis. That could be a possibility. Maybe he could just go and find other people that have survived.
Right.
He might even go slightly back on the storyline, you know, and go back to the pirate ship. He might go back to get Jack to survive. You know, and pick up those people who are now against the part of his group who he now sees as no better than the monsters that they're trying to escape from.
Right. Well, it seems like his whole idea that we're monsters and Shiva, you know, we destroy everything we touch. Like, who's he really gonna find? Like, it's Celia and that group is the only people that see the world, and this, you know, the zombies aren't. They are what they are. Would you love your son? All that stuff. So I don't know where he really goes. I'm curious about that, but he is on his own. Last, of course, we have Strand, dug the grave, was spit on by Celia and forced to leave the compound. Don't worry, I'll hail a cab. Like,
so sweet.
Will there still be Ubers in the zombie apocalypse?
Nah, smartphones don't work, so no way. You have to call. You have to physically hail a cab.
Just oobs.
So annoying.
No Ubers, just oobs. But you know,
yeah, I gotta answer. I actually took your question seriously.
That'll be a really big search charge. It'll be terrible.
But you know what? As kind of crazy as he sounded, he's not really wrong, you know, as we've gone through Nick, as we've gone through, you know, I think back to the situation where they met the family and how that whole thing kind of went awry. The whole situation with you know, them being on or with them encountering, I can't remember what her name is, but there was the couple who the guy was badly burned and they were in the raft. So I mean, there's been quite a few situations where they did kind of, you know, screw things up a little bit and kind of ruin things. So I mean, he's interpreting it in a way that I think is a bit jaded, but ultimately, I mean, yeah, you could make an argument that we've kind of have screwed things up majorly with Alicia and Jack and the whole thing coming on the boat, you know. So yeah, I mean, I see where he's going with it, but yeah, he's definitely influenced in a way that's dangerous, because he can either go one way, which is just be completely entranced in this ideology that he's untouchable, which can be very you know, dangerous for him, or go the opposite way where he kind of becomes a Celia and just is sort of prophesizing this you know, ideal about who these walkers are, when I don't think he really even understands it himself.
Well, it's funny, right? Celia's whole thing she talks about a lot is like, he has no fear. He has no fear. I was listening. She's very like a crazy Yoda. You know, it's like fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to the dark side. So her whole thing with Nick being like, you have no fear, which he doesn't. He has no fear when he sees the walkers. He is kind of an enlightened and a special character. Yeah. And he will have a purpose. He will have a very useful purpose in the story. Yeah. Because they're building him up to be kind of a badass. They're building up, you know. Yeah. They're just building that character. You just wonder, where will he relate to the story as we go forward?
The thing is, though, that he's someone who needs a catalyst, whether that's a drug or whether it's someone giving him a mission, which is effectively has made him given him a mission to reassess his position within the family and to look at the group. So I think without that, I think he'll very quickly find that he doesn't have a mentor. He doesn't have a Yoda. Yeah. There's no one there to say, oh, well, maybe you should look at it this way, or maybe you should do that way.
Celia is, in fact, alive.
She could be. Well, but when Salazar went in there, I mean, I'm going to assume that she's dead.
Yeah, me too.
She might not be dead.
She's not. To me, I said this before we started filming, but I got the point of her character. I think there was a failure there because she was supposed to be a villain. Like, she's kind of supposed to be. She's not the big bad, but she was supposed to be sort of like a villain character, and she just didn't. I wasn't intimidated by her. I wasn't particularly scared by her. She didn't fear death when she was standing there with the walkers. She's a very hard character to get a read on. Kind of just an annoying character. It's like she didn't really have that. She didn't have that distinctive a point of view that didn't just seem crazy to me. She seemed crazy to me. Yeah. So it was hard to tolerate her constantly having this privileged position in the conversations. Like, it always felt like she was in control. Like, why? Why would you be in control?
It would be very difficult to see how she comes back as in, because the only reason she was surviving was to have her family and her people close to her, and now a lot of them are obviously dead.
Yeah.
But if she survives, then that'd be a really interesting story arc for Nick's character, because I'm sure she would find Nick, and then that would be a whole journey.
So all right, so we have Strand and the gang. They're in the truck. They're getting out of there. I think we have a strong-ish sense of where everybody sort of ended the episode. Let's talk about predictions.
All right.
There we go.
That's gonna be my song for the week.
So we're going to share our predictions here. We're also going to talk about something that we talk about every week, which is called Carol Watch. It's the idea on the show. We're going to talk about one of the characters that started out at the beginning of the show and is kind of turning into that undercover badass, the character you think is going to have the most distinct journey and be that fan favorite in the end. We're 1.5 seasons into the show now. This, obviously, we said earlier, is a hard one hard to peg someone, but we will cast our vote at the end of this episode for who we think that should be. And then, of course, we're going to talk about our predictions for next season. I wanted to just kind of know generally, though, what people thought of the episode. I think you were going to do the same thing on the chat.
Yeah, we were getting scores of sort of 7 and 8 out of 10.
I got something similar because I tweeted it. This is what I got. I asked, how many stars out of 10 do you give tonight's episode? I got 8, 7.5, 7, 10 out of 10, 8.5, 8, 2. Somebody says it was Schrodinger's cat. Pink Lily Cat says
Was that
2.
the cast of Game of Thrones saying that?
No.
Yeah, it's 2. Shit. Watch this instead.
I know, right?
So I guess
7, 8.5,
people
7.5.
seem to be somewhat
Very lukewarm. There's only 110.
Well, I think coming off the back of such a strong couple of episodes over the last 2 weeks, where they've been really dynamic, I think it was the pace felt more like the first season.
Right.
So I think that was a shift too much. But I mean, with The Walking Dead, I mean, the last couple of seasons of that, we hit the mid-season and it's kind of left you with blue balls.
A little bit.
It's just that it hasn't really had a cliffhanger. It hasn't had a definite end, like, oh shit, what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's just kind of slows, like it's a stop sign.
So, all right, so let's go predictions and then Carol Watch.
Sure.
So, predictions, anybody want to jump into the first one?
I'm going to predict that the next half of the season will come back in August.
Yep.
On AMC.
That's a horrible prediction.
And then we will be back that same night. By the way, it's just August at the moment. They haven't given. Somebody's been asking in the chat room.
When?
When is the date? It's
believe, unless I'm mistaken, because Preacher starts tonight. When I'll actually be on the show tonight doing that. But Preacher starts tonight, and I believe Preacher is going to run this summer for the entirety of the time before this comes back. Then I think this comes back probably the week
Sunday
Preacher ends,
Yep.
or the week after.
Yep.
And I would imagine that when Preacher or when Fear the Walking Dead ends, 8 or 9 weeks later,
Preacher will come back.
Fear the Walking Dead, or Walking
so we're
Dead.
looking at about mid-August. So
come back.
middle 2 weeks of August we're looking
Something
at. Really.
like
Yeah,
that, I
yeah.
think.
Stay tuned, folks.
But as far as predictions go, I think my prediction, I do think that Daniel is dead. I think he's gone.
Yeah.
My biggest prediction is that I think that bonding you were talking about, the Ophelia and Alicia bonding, their characters will become far more fleshed out in the second half of this season. I think that's something I'm very much looking forward to. I'll still call Alicia as my Carol Watch, though with no basis tonight at all. If not, I would call Nick, but it's hard. He's not really a Carol. He's been capable the whole time.
Yeah.
I think Celia is still alive. I don't know why I have that feeling. I think she's going to come back, and I think that she and Nick are going to have an interesting relationship after that. I definitely think that the relationship with Travis and Chris is going to be a rocky one.
Right.
I am predicting that it's going to come down to him having to kill Chris.
Okay.
Or at least walking away from him again and having to go back with Madison and the rest of the group. And as far as Strand and the other girls, I guess I'm just predicting that they're I think Strand has another. He has another destination. I don't know why I'm sensing that as well, but
like he knows where to go.
Yeah, like he has another idea of where to go, and like you were saying, I mean, the whole relationship with him and Thomas, it seemed very transactional. Like after he died, it kind of, and Celia was kind of saying, you lied, and you never really loved him, you never really had feelings for him. So I think that was kind of a means to an end for him. So he'll have another scheme up his sleeve, and I think eventually Madison is going to try and go back to get Nick.
Okay. Wow.
And as far as Carol Watch, I didn't really see any evidence of that in this episode, but I think that Madison probably has the most potential at this point. Just seeing her let go of Nick and seeing that affect her, I think that will definitely see more of that.
It's a good guess, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Ophelia for Carol Watch, because I think we're really going to, in the second half of this season, I think we're going to see her grow.
Really coming around.
Because she's being very close with Salazar, and I think she's going to come into her own there. I've been saying it all the way through the episode that I think God, Salazar's dead.
Yeah.
I think there's more chance of him coming back than there is Celia coming back.
Sure.
But I wouldn't put it past her either. So I think we're going to see a horribly mutilated Salazar coming through. Because someone said in the chat room he's been through a lot more.
Yeah.
It's been a lot worse. So I think we're going to see Salazar come back. I think we're going to. My Carol Watch is going to be Ophelia. And my prediction is, I agree that we're going to see Chris dying. And I think we're going to probably lose Nick for the next half of the season, and either have him come back right at the end, or we're not going to see him again until season 3. He's going to go through some sort of a retransformation again, kind of like a caterpillar going through a chrysalis. And I think we're going to see, but we're not going to see him for a while. Jack will be back in the second half of the season.
For sure.
Definitely.
Fair enough. Awesome, guys. Well, that's going to do it. That's going to wrap it up. So thank you so much for watching us for 7 episodes.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Tuning in every week.
7 weeks.
Thank you for listening if you haven't been watching. And, of course, reminder one more time, Preacher premieres tonight on AMC, so watch that. I'm going to be doing the show at 10:30. We'll be doing the panel for that. So it's exciting. It's my favorite comic book of all time. I'm very excited to be on that show. And we will be back in the studio doing For the Walking Dead, the same crew, as soon as Preacher ends, which should be about 10 weeks. So thank you guys so much. One more time, if you want to find any of us, I'm Ben Bateman Media. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Ashley_Chatman. Bye. Until next season. I'm never going to live that down. You know I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Showbiz Simon, and on Facebook, This is Simon Thompson. And you can find him at a Backstreet Boys concert. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Sure. Well, we'll see you guys later. See you guys next season. Thank you. From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV. Buzz you later. The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.